So here we go, part 28. How the hell did I get myself here? This is a story about me becoming an international smuggler via this helicopter, working my way through the federal system. It's about loss. It's about reflecting and the road to redemption and where I sit now. Here we go. So I'm on the prison bus and we're in the Mojave Desert. And finally, I don't see any buildings, but I see some hangars. So I'm starting to get quite excited that this is the notorious and the famous ConAir. ConAir is very famous for a couple of reasons. It was my favourite movie in the 90s with Nick Cage and I think Malcolm X. And great movie. And I was just about to live it. It was something straight out of a movie. So the bus, we started making our way through this deserted airport. There are some really great, there's one great documentary on YouTube in regards to the US Marshals Service and ConAir. And this would be the first time I come into contact with both. And we're at a different level at this point. So we're making our way through. We're on a bus and all I can see is a plane ahead of us. And I would say somewhere around 100 US Marshals. The US Marshals dressed, they're all in suits and they love their shotguns. And everyone's got a shotgun. I thought it was a film set. A bus pulls up, but there's a bunch of other buses there as well. And this plane was a 727, to put it in perspective. They have a couple different aircraft. Apparently they've got 6. We call it ConAir or a JPEG flight, which is a Justice Prisoner Transport or whatever it is. But anyway, JPEG. So the bus pulls up. There are some other smaller buses. So basically what they've done in this area, they've moved all the prisoners that need to be transported all throughout the United States. We all congregate and that's where we are. Something sort of unique happens. I'm actually... At this point, I've been bouncing around all day and I do digress to one part of the story. As we bounced around in the morning or in the afternoon, I at some point got chained to this bloke. And as we pulled up to this plane, processing to go onto the plane, it's very tedious and really long. And you get used to touching other blokes. I'm chained. I've got my waist is chained to this. My hand is chained to this guy's waist and his to mine. And we both have leg irons. They come along and hop down on the floor and chain us together. How I've been riding around, I believe, with this guy for a couple of hours until we got there. He wasn't really in the talkative mood. As we pulled up to the plane, this process now is going to take somewhere around 4 or 5 hours. So I thought I would get talking to the guy next to me and just find out. We're already touching each other, so we might as well have a chat. And I just asked him what brings him to California. He said that he was out here on trial. I asked him, how did you go? He said, no, I lost. And I said, what does that mean? They gave me 3 life sentences. At that point, I thought, I went a little bit white, like 3 life sentences. And then he just laughed and he goes, makes no difference to me. I'm serving 3 more in Alabama and that's where I'm heading back. I got to do that, be unalive before I can come to California and finish out the other 3 life sentences. So essentially, I was chained to my first serial. There was no way of getting away from this bloke. I just thought, out of anyone I could have been chained to, this bloke, because as people got up, we were in free world clothes. It was a funny situation, but I'm sort of digressing from the story. We pulled up. I'd had a chat to my serial chopper, my new best friend next door to me. There was a ton of US Marshals. And a van pulled up and almost it doubled in size when it come to US Marshals. More US Marshals. This came with a motorcade. One van in the middle, I would say 4 to 5 front cars, 4 to 5 chase cars. And I knew that because that's what I did when I delivered the devil's lettuce. They all jumped out and made this perimeter. So there would have been least 100 to 150 US Marshals. More guns than I've ever seen in my life. One guy got out of that van. One guy. If you think it was straight out of that movie, ConAir, they walked this guy up onto the plane. It took about, 20 minutes, half an hour to secure, and nobody was moving. I later found out that was a guy called Bings, and he was the national president for the Aryan Brotherhood. It was just heading back to ADX in Florence, Colorado, and I will get into that. So that's where El Chapo is. That's where the terrorists for 9/11 were all housed, and he was on my flight. And this guy was out here on 13 counts of murder. And he was running the Aryan Brotherhood from one of the most secured facilities in the entire world. He had managed to get hits out on people. And later on, I found that out by reading like who this guy was. There was a bit of talk on the plane. Once he was secured on the plane, then it was up to us for loading. And it was just a slow process. You can actually look it up. A 727... especially the JPEG flight, the stairs come down, the engines aren't on the wings, they're actually up on the back tail. And it was this stairs come down in between those. And it's like one of the US military transport planes. You see these guys walking up in between the motors. At one point, I'm going to be walking up there. But as they call out your name, everything, your name is called out. An officer at the start of the bus checks your band off. You go down. They do another body check on you. As you get to the plane, you get another body check done, and then you go up. So that's how many checks you are. And each time somebody gets up, they call out your name. Well, a bloke in the front got up, and he was in shape. He was a skinny bloke. He was in really tight lycra short shorts and a singlet. Everyone just cheered and cat whistled when he got up. He was in handcuffs. I think he gave us the finger as he turned around. But it was just you're with the baddest of bad. Bing just got on the plane. I'm next to a serial killer. And then you get up in a set of bike shorts. But I did find out all about that guy. That is coming up. So he got up, made his way onto the plane. Eventually they called my name. It was intimidating just walking up, getting all the checks done, and then walking out, and every marshal, you are the center of attention at that point. Everyone's, wouldn't say they've got their shotguns pointed at you, but they're ready to use those bad boys. It's mostly 50 meters over to the plane, and you're in shackles, you're in everything tied up. You're walking your way over to the plane. You're looking up, you can see the back of the motors as you climb up a 727, make your way down that aisle. Again, it's not easy. So stay tuned. I think we're up to part 28. It's interesting now, but